Have you heard the term snowflake to describe people? You might have. It basically refers to somebody who can't hold up to pressure, who, when anything hard happens, they just melt. They just go away. They disintegrate. You are not a snowflake. You are listening to this podcast, which means that I know that you are an overcomer. You are approaching your health with an I can do this mentality. You know something's going on and you are actively seeking solutions. You are listening to Health with Hashimoto's. That is what we do on this podcast. I help you every single week figure out simple and sustainable solutions to your health challenges. And today I want to talk about this concept of being a snowflake or being resilient. I was reading a book. As a nurse, I have to get like 20-something continuing education credits every time I renew my license. And my license is up for renewal. So I have been reading a book that gets me a whole bunch of CEUs. It's called Food for Thought. And one of the chapters is actually about emotional eating and cravings. But what caught my attention was the topic of resilience. Because when you have Hashimoto's, or when somebody in your life has Hashimoto's, or any chronic health challenge, like we have a lot to deal with. We are faced with these challenges, and resilience is the ability to confront challenges and endure even horrific situations, like think Holocaust. The study of resilience gained steam after the Holocaust. But the resilience is that ability to confront those challenges and endure situations and emerge psychologically healthy. That is resilience. And you have challenges. We all have challenges. And when we have a challenge, we have two options. We can either be passive. We can have that passive response, or we can have a challenge-oriented response. We can decide that we want to rise up and meet this challenge. Almost every single day, I have a challenge of what do I eat? What do I feed my family? My husband and I share supper making responsibilities, and on my days, it's probably like breakfast time. I'm already thinking, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat today? I know I could do a better job of meal planning. And that is a challenge that I need to overcome. But right now, when it comes to my day to cook, a lot of times at breakfast, I have this situation of I need to feed my family. I need to feed all 6 of us at supper time, and I don't know what to make. Now, I have 2 options. I can be passive, and in the passive response is I'm assuming failure. I don't know. I just am hoping that it's going to go away. And it doesn't go away. I still have to feed the family supper. Whether I prepare at breakfast time and get out the meat to thaw, or even the night before, which never happens, or I am, last minute scrambling at 4 or 5 o'clock trying to figure out what can I make in 20 minutes. Like, no matter what, I have the situation of my family needs to eat. We don't fast. I have offered it to my boys as a suggestion. I'm like, hey, who wants to fast today? 4 teenage boys. None of them are ever going to fast. And I don't ever say it in a serious, way, because everybody needs to eat. We don't fast. So I know that I need to feed everybody. At the same time, sometimes I approach that situation and I'm just passive. I have no idea. And I go on with my life as if supper time is not going to come. Supper time is going to come and I will need to feed my family. So I can be passive, or I can see it as a challenge that I need to rise up and meet. And granted, making supper is not a huge challenge. We have big challenges. When you have Hashimoto's, your overwhelming fatigue or your brain fog or your metabolism, like these things might challenge you so much more than what am I going to feed my family for supper? I just wanted to give you an easy situation that we can all relate to of, this, how do you react? How do you react when you are faced with challenging situations, whether it's what to eat today or what am I going to do for my health? You have these 2 options. You can be passive or you can have a challenge-oriented response. That is what this book refers to it as. And so passive response assumes failure. It assumes that you're not going to be able to rise up and meet this. You're not going to be able to overcome it. It's just going to happen no matter what. So you just freeze. It's kind of that fight and flight and freeze. You just froze. Unfortunately, the passive response, because it's assuming failure, it guarantees stress. You're almost accepting of the bad outcome, and it does increase stress. And one of the things that drives all health conditions, all negative health conditions, is stress. We want to lower stress. So instead of having that passive response, let's figure out how we can have a challenge-oriented response. Now, this involves problem solving, and it encourages a sense of control over the challenge. You might not have complete control over the situation, but you do have control over how you react and your actions within the situation. I cannot control that supper is going to happen every single day. That is something outside of my control. The sun and the earth, we continue through time and space. Supper time will happen, whether I am ready or not, every single day. It will be evening. My family will be hungry. They will need to eat. It's going to happen every single day. I get to decide, am I going to meal plan? Am I going to meal plan for the month? I know what days I'm going to cook. My husband and I have it figured out. I have specific days of the week. He has specific days of the week. That's not a surprise to me. I should be able to meal plan. I also, now that my chickens are laying again, during the winter, the hens were not laying eggs. Even though we had a light in there, they still were not laying very many eggs. But now they're laying again, and I can plan my meals. That does throw me for a loop in early or midwinter, when all of a sudden I go from having a dozen to 2 dozen eggs worth every single day to 0. A lot of my meals, I plan around eggs. For example, Sunday is my day off. I established that, probably 15, 16 years ago. Sunday is my day off. It's leftovers. Everybody knows when we get home from church, it's leftovers for lunch. And then for supper, it's usually hard-boiled eggs. And people can add to that. We used to have smoothies, but not everybody drinks the smoothies. So hard-boiled eggs and something else. And then the hard-boiled eggs, I make extra, and they sit in the fridge for quick meals, quick lunches, add to salad, whatever, quick snack. So that used to be my routine. And then every early winter, midwinter, when the hens quit laying, I am completely thrown off my game because I had this standard meal, and now I don't know what to do. Or, I make frittata a lot. Again, if you have 1 or 2 dozen eggs coming in the house every single day, you're going to figure out ways to use eggs. So I go from having a lot of frittata and hard-boiled eggs to no eggs, and then I'm confused. It's a challenge. I know it's going to happen. It happens every winter. This should not be surprising. And I can either be like, oh my goodness, I have no idea what to feed everybody, and be passive and assume failure, and then panic at the last minute, increase my stress. Or I could figure out a menu, and I could figure it out a month in advance. Be totally doable. Same thing with your health. There's certain situations going on. If you have Hashimoto's, that you have root causes causing it. I mean, that's in the name, root causes. You have triggers. You might not know what those root causes are. You might not know what the triggers are. You might not know when you're going through your life and you're unconsciously and inadvertently exacerbating your autoimmune condition. You might not know that. It's still happening. If you don't know what your root causes are, if you don't know what your triggers are, you could still be accidentally increasing those. And that's a challenge that we get to approach. It's a situation, and you get to decide, am I going to be passive? Am I going to assume failure and just stay on my Synthroid or levothyroxine or Armour or Cytomel, whatever, forever? let my thyroid die, let my immune system kill off my thyroid. I'll gradually increase my medication dose, and someday I won't have a working thyroid. People do that. I don't think it's you, because you are listening to the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. This is the podcast where I help you figure out what you can do. So I don't think that you're passive when it comes to your health. I think that you are rising up and you're saying, what can I do? And that's why you sought out this podcast. And I would encourage you, send it to somebody else, share it on social media. It would blow your mind to know how many of your friends and family and people on social media have thyroid problems. It is like 18 million people just in the United States. Levothyroxine and Synthroid, the thyroid medications, they're one of the top prescribed medications in the world. People are suffering with thyroid problems, and they need to know about this podcast. They need to know that there is hope, that there are things that they can do. They don't just have to be passive and accept that their body, their immune system, is going to attack their thyroid and kill it off. We can do things to prevent that and to turn it around. There really are things, and you know that because you've been listening. All right, so you could have a passive response. You could have a challenge-oriented response. So how do you switch? How do you do this? It's two things. Number one is to be mindful, just be aware of what you're thinking. When I catch myself thinking about supper and thinking, I don't know, I'm just going to wait until later to figure it out. Sometimes I do have that awareness and I go, that's dumb, Esther. Supper time is going to come. Let's figure it out now, instead of at the time when everybody is hungry. Let's figure it out now. And, when I have that mental awareness, it helps so much because now I can take action. And now I save myself the stress, because if I know that the situation that I need to address is going to happen later in the day, that niggling stress is always going to be there. It's going to invade my thoughts at random times. I'll be busy helping my kids with homeschool, and then there'll be a lull, and all of a sudden my brain is like, Esther, we got to figure out what's for supper. That stressor is always there. If I deal with it at breakfast time or even the night before, then that stress is less the whole day, because I've already figured out, okay, here's the situation. This is the challenge. This is how I'm going to approach it, instead of waiting until the last minute and stressing out throughout the day about it, because that is what happens. How about your health? You know that there's a situation, and you know that you need to figure out your root causes. So have you gone through Hashimoto's Decoded Root Causes Revealed yet? It'll take you less than an hour. I have a beautiful workbook. I love the workbook that I created. I used to have just the course, the videos, and I would talk you through it and help you figure out your root causes. And now it's the workbook. So it's elevated so that it's in black and white, right in front of you. You write down, you circle, you score yourself, and still it's going to take you less than an hour to figure out your root causes. Now, are you going to be able to send out your labs and do a whole lot of testing in that hour? No. I help you figure out your root causes without all of that stuff. You will, when you do your labs and when you meet with a doctor or a functional medicine provider, you're probably going to be able to dig deeper. But in the Hashimoto's Decoded Root Causes Revealed mini course, you're going to be able to figure out your primary root causes and triggers so that you can take action. So that's knowing the situation and saying, okay, here are the challenges I get to react to, I get to address. So if stress is one of your triggers, which if you are human in today's day and age, stress is an issue. It's probably a trigger. So you get to decide, how am I going to mitigate my stress every day? What am I going to do to lower my stress? Can I reduce my stressors? Can I change the way that I approach things that are stressful? And that is part of being resilient. It is saying, okay, I'm going to notice my emotions. I'm going to notice my thoughts. Be mindful. Mindfulness is thrown around a lot as a term, but is really helpful. Mindfulness is a calm, non-judgmental way of observing your own thoughts, the external things and the internal things. What is going on? how am I reacting? What emotions am I feeling? And how am I feeling physically? Like, I might feel stressed, but where do I feel stressed? What feels different to me? How does stress appear in my body? Do I feel it in my chest? Do I feel it in my stomach? Does my, do I feel a little queasy, or do my shoulders feel tight? Does my neck hurt? Am I clenching my jaw? Do I have a little bit of a headache because I'm stressed? Like, how does it show up for you when you are stressed? That's mindfulness, being aware of what's going on in your body, your physical response, and your emotions, and not shoulding or judging or shaming yourself. Like, you're not going to say, I should do this. You're just going to observe. Like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then you can replace those thoughts. So if you are worrying about something, instead of worrying, once you catch yourself, then you can replace that worried thought with a new thought. You get to choose those thoughts. If you have ever read the book Soundtracks by John Acuff, if you haven't, I highly recommend it. But if you have, you know these thoughts as soundtracks. They play in the background of your mind like a soundtrack to your life. And you get to choose, are you going to turn up the volume? Are you going to turn down the volume? Or are you going to change the track? Are you going to change the soundtrack? Skip ahead to the next song. You don't have to stay stuck in the same soundtrack once you realize that that is what you're thinking. Your mind is so powerful. So you get to be mindful, calm, not judgmental, just observing yourself. And then the next thing you get to do, if you really want to work on resilience, is every single day, write down your gratitudes. It's such a small thing. And you're like, Esther, really? Like, I have Hashimoto's. I'm trying to figure out my brain fog. I'm trying to figure out my fatigue. I'm trying to figure out why I can't lose weight. I'm trying to figure out why I'm cold all the time when everybody else is functioning normally. I'm trying to figure out why my hair is brittle and falling out. I have challenges, Esther, and you're telling me just to write down 3 things I'm thankful for? Yep. Writing down 3 things that you are thankful for every single day is so powerful. Number 1, it tells your brain to look for things that you're thankful for. It's going to tell your brain to look for the good in the day. When you are writing down what you're thankful for, your brain is going to be subconsciously observing the day to figure out what you can write down later on. You're going to start noticing good. Also, when you start writing down what you are thankful for every day, like they've done so many studies. I feel like it's so many. I don't know how many it has been, but I have read about multiple different studies about this. It buffers your cortisol response. That's your stress response. When I'm talking about stress being one of the triggers for pretty much everybody with an autoimmune condition, like that's a simple thing we can do. We can write down what we're grateful for. That buffers our cortisol response. It lowers our stress response, and it's going to help your overall health. Also, it's going to help you be more resilient. Because you're not stuck. You're not a snowflake. You're not going to see this hardship of your health. Hashimoto's is a big thing, and I'm not discounting that. You're not going to see that, and you're not going to melt. You're not going to just assume failure. You are listening to this podcast, so I know that you are approaching it as a challenge, as something that you can take action, you can solve, you can problem solve, you can approach different root causes, and you can diminish them, you can remove them altogether. If you've gone through a Hashimoto's Decoded Root Causes Revealed, you know that some of those root causes are really easy to just be done with. Like your vitamin D level. Vitamin D is a root cause or is a trigger for Hashimoto's. You can get your labs tested. You can even order it on Amazon. You poke your finger, put a couple drops of blood on the little card that they send to you in the mail. You send it back. You know your vitamin D level, and you can fix that. So simple. Other things like stress, you're not going to be able to turn around overnight, right? You're going to have to work on different ways to approach that. And one way to do it is writing down your gratitudes every single day. So today, I just want to remind you that you're not a snowflake. You're not just melting into this like, oh no, I have Hashimoto's, I'm a victim. No, you're listening to this podcast. I know that you're an overcomer. I know that you are rising up. You're seeing this as a challenge and you are looking for ways to actively heal. And that is why you listen to the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. That is why I named it Health with Hashimoto's, because we have Hashimoto's. That's not going away. We could put it into remission. We can get our antibodies down. We can get our thyroid working again. But it's always something that we're going to be aware of and cognizant of so that we can approach it and we can help our bodies have the best health possible, even when we have something like Hashimoto's. And I know you can do it. I have confidence in you. I'll see you next week. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any concerns and plans with your trusted healthcare professional. If you found this episode helpful, will you please share it with a friend? I'll see you next week on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast.